Have you ever felt so far away from where you want to be that you think there is no way I can become who I want to be? Well, today's guest, Ruth, is living proof that no matter how far gone you feel like you are just one day away from your goal. I want to thank you so much for being on the show with us, Ruth.
Thank you.
And you have an incredible testimony of how God can take something that's broken and turn it into something beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Have you been a Christian your whole life?
I was raised as a Christian in my uncle's church in Hayward, the Full Gospel Temple, and went to church there until I was about 17, and then got married, but God's been in my life in increments. Things would get real bad, so we'd go to church, and things would mellow out, and so that's. Then I started back in church. Probably about 10 years ago. My husband and I, we went to church, and then we were off for about a year, and then we've been back in the church for about 6 years now, 5 or 6 years.
What was the biggest difference that you noticed about being in church consistently and then not being in church? Like, how did your life change during those years?
Well, actually, my life changed after getting in AA. Should I tell you the?
Yeah, absolutely. So, your story really is rooted in dealing with an addiction and
Yes.
how you were able to come out of that.
Right.
So, could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. And I was. It probably started around the time I was born. My mother and father, there were 4 children, and my mother and father got divorced when I was 4.
Wow.
And my mom took us kids while my dad was at work and took us to Reno, but didn't tell him. So my dad didn't know it took him about 7 months to find out where we were. And she had taken us to Reno, and she was a cocktail waitress at the Mapes there. And we stayed with a babysitter that was an alcoholic. And she would, my older sister Janice, when she was 7, she would take the 4 of us, and the woman that babysat us would want to be with her boyfriend, so she used to give Janice a quarter to take us downtown Reno.
A quarter? It's so crazy to me.
we would walk the tracks to downtown Reno, and we would, there was a black gentleman that made us check in with him when we got there because he wanted to keep his eye on us. And the 4 of us, and that was, you're talking 7, 5, 4, and 18 months.
Oh my.
And so, but Janice would keep us in order. And well, my mom got to a point where she couldn't take care of us. So, and that was because she got kicked out of the house we were in because it had a detached garage and it had a lot of things in there, and we didn't have a lot. So my sister broke in, and we got to take one thing each. And I got a stuffed animal, and well, my mom got kicked out of that house, and she didn't have anywhere to take us, but instead of contacting my father, she put us in an orphanage. So we were in an orphanage, And it was scary because we were, just kids.
Were you with all your siblings, though?
I was with my older sister, my brother older than me, and my baby sister. And we would, in the orphanage, they would, it would get scary because my little sister was only 18 months old, and she would suck her thumb, so they would put Tabasco sauce on it so she wouldn't suck it. And my big sister, Janice, would get in their faces and get in trouble. But we did go to church, and we went to the Salvation Army Church.
Okay.
And we'd walk down there, and then, so then my dad found out where we were, and he came and got us out of the orphanage and took us back to Hayward, where we were from. And he raised us. And
did your mom ever come back into the picture at any point?
I remember when I was about 5 and a half, my dad went to court. And I can remember he took all of us kids, and we sat, well, there was only 3 of us because the oldest one wasn't his. And so the 3 of us kids were sitting in the front row with Aunt Virginia, and a man came in and said, and I was so excited because I hadn't seen my mom in a year and a half, and I thought I was going to be able to see her. So we were sitting there, and a man came in, and he said, "I'm sorry, Terry won't be here. She won't be here, but she said, take the kids and just don't drag my name through the mud." So it was a very hard time. Well, I always wanted to be with her because when I was raised, all my sisters were blondes, my brother had red hair, and I was the only one with dark hair. And my mother, I looked just like my mother.
Aww.
So when I was little, I remember looking in the mirror and thinking, how come she doesn't like me? I look just like her. So I grew up very confused. My dad remarried, and my stepmom, they brought 2 more children in, but my dad was my saving grace. He was a good, honest, God-fearing man. And he raised us, and he told us from the get-go, we are a family. It's nobody's business but our own, but we're a family.
Amen.
So he married Donna and the 2 kids that came in, so it put us all a year apart. And we were raised that way. But I was always felt not good enough.
Got a place because you look like your mom. Yeah.
And people used to say, how come she has brown hair? But so I went through life trying to people please and take care of people, because I thought if I did that, they wouldn't leave. And now I'm getting very emotional, but actually I started drinking. I was 19. I started drinking, and it gave me a solution for everything that was in my head.
It was numbing.
It was numbing. So I was self-medicating, and it was my solution until it didn't work anymore. But I had spent time, in church, and then I got married, had 2 more children. I had 3 boys, and we took the boys to church, And the man I married, his mother was in my uncle's church. She was, Sister Frances was a part. And so we got married, but then we did things to, you know, that people were doing it that our peers were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so we raised those boys, and unfortunately they were raised with an alcoholic mother. And my mother was an alcoholic, and my grandmother was an alcoholic. And so I got the disease, and when I went to AA, I always knew in my head, something always told me I had to quit by the time I was 55 years old. So
Keep it down.
when I was 55, I went into AA, and from the very first I'm sorry, but my husband passed away when I was 51, and he passed away, and I lost my husband, my mother, and my dad in a year and a half.
Wow.
And
That's heartbreaking.
I really got into drinking. And then I remarried, but I took real good care of my husband because God helped me. He was my only, saving grace at the time.
Yeah.
And so I got remarried to a good man, and who was my husband's and my best friend. And my husband, before he passed away, he had said, "I wish you would marry Stan," because he knew that if I was left to my own devices, that things probably wouldn't go well. Well, and Stan and I got together, and Stan told me, "I'm not going to tell you that you can't drink, but I won't be here."
Mm.
And I went to AA. I went into a program, and from the very first meeting, I felt at home, and people knew. We just related. We had a bond. And so I went into rehab in '06, and it was, I found that God, that when I got there, I felt like my soul was black. I didn't have a soul any longer. And when I got there, we started working with a higher power, and my higher power was God, and has always been. And then, so I went in '06, and then I went out one day in 2008. So I have been sober since August 16th in 2008. And the people that I met in there and the support that I got in AA made the whole difference. Made the whole difference. And it was given so freely to me that I wanted to give back. And I still, to this day, do service in AA. I do 3 meetings a week. I have a sponsor that has taught me all the things I didn't learn as a child. And they also taught me and told me to see a psychiatrist, which I did after 10 years of sobriety. And the first meeting I had with her, she told me that I had PTSD from a broken heart. And when I walked out of her office, the burden had been lifted. And the thing that was missing was God, and that peace and pure that only He gives. And now we go to church. We haven't gone since November, but we do it online because of the COVID. But I miss the kids because I do. I'm the helper for the 2 to 5 year olds. And it has been everything. And everything I looked for out in the world I never found until God came back in my life. And every morning, I wake up and thank God for the day. And every night I do an inventory. And if I do things wrong, I want to admit it and not carry. And I have received such a freedom that only God could fill. And I go to Bible study. We have a great 13 of us in our Bible study class. And but I have the life that I've always wanted because of His mercy.
It looks like that God never left you.
No,
He was
never
always
left
by
me.
your side throughout all of those nights drinking, out of all of those days feeling like you were unworthy. He was staying right beside you.
Yes, He was.
And He was speaking life into you, saying that you were worthy, that you were chosen, that you were beautifully and wonderfully made in His image. What did you discover? Like what started helping you deal with life circumstances that you were trying to numb with alcohol?
God's grace. My getting on my knees and asking God and working a 12-step program and learning how to live, and His grace. And I meditate with God every morning. Every morning I read Jesus Calling and 3 other books, and I try and live one day at a time, and it's much easier than looking into the future. But He has filled me with His Spirit, and it gives me strength. And He's everything to me.
Was there ever a point that you felt embarrassed because you were going to AA meetings and like you didn't want anybody to know that you were going through this process of healing and bettering yourself?
Sure. And it's they've come a long way, but it's still, a label.
Mm-hmm. How did you get past that label, though?
I think I got past it through God's help, and through going for bettering myself, for getting help.
Yeah.
Just I was able, with a clear mind now, I was able to make better decisions. And the way that I keep that clear mind is through action in being part of a church, action in being part of AA, action in being in service.
Yeah. Accountability seems to be one of the most important things when you're trying to overcome an addiction.
Yes.
Whether that is alcohol or pornography
Sure.
or drugs, accountability seems to be very important. And do you still have people in your life that keep you accountable to this day?
My husband keeps me accountable. I keep myself accountable. My sponsor keeps me accountable, and I try and and have a living amends for my parents. Because I did have accountability before they left, but I kind of lost that when I lost them all.
Yeah.
But now I am accountable, and being a secretary of our meetings and things like that.
What advice do you have for somebody who is currently dealing with an addiction in their life? What steps do they take to get to where you're at today? Completely healed, completely restored, and just ready to take on the world.
And, well, to know that there is a God that loves them, and to know that there are programs. There are programs that you can relate to, and they relate to you, and there is help out there. And just to be able to take advantage of it, because when you're in the thick of it, you think there's no other way. There, I mean, I thought, who wants to be in AA? That's no fun, I've had more fun in AA than I ever had. And I remember everything I do.
Did it happen right away that you enjoyed it, or did it take some time?
It's taken growth. It's taken doing the steps with my sponsor, and just working on my life.
Yeah, change doesn't come overnight.
No.
All it takes is a mindset that
Yes.
you want to change, and you can.
Yes.
It just takes some time. I mean, I have even seen people in my own life who have battled and overcome addiction just by changing their mindset that they want to change.
Yes.
That's the first step.
Yes.
What advice do you have for families who are witnessing their loved one go through something like that?
Is to seek help, because there is, for their families that are going through it, to be supportive, but be part of the family, and to seek help, because there is help out there, and there's, like I say, when you're in the middle of it, you think you can't change, but you can. And I see miracles every day in the program. I see miracles at church.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful thing. I know you mentioned that you used to only go to church when things were good. And then when things, started getting bad, you started going back to church. How do you stay consistent now going to church in the good times and in the bad times?
Because I stay part of the church.
Yeah. And it's clearly made a big difference in your life, too, not kind of going back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And the blessings that God gives, there's so many I can't even, tell you how many. Just from living one day at a time and being present.
During the process of healing, there also comes forgiveness. Forgiving yourself, asking forgiveness from others. What did that process look like for you?
Well, with my mom, going and seeing a psychiatrist and working with her, it changed that. It changed the feeling I had for myself, and also it changed my feelings that I had for her. And it taught me compassion. And I do know that that she had her own problems. And unfortunately, she never got help. But through that help, I was able to build compassion for her, and it took it off me, you know.
Do you remember when you came to the point where you realized that the old self was finally behind you? Do you remember that point?
Yes. And there was something still missing 5-6 years ago, one part of it, and it was going back to church. And as soon as I went back to church, I just welcomed it with open arms and became part of the church, and my husband is too, and that's what was missing in the puzzle.
I think a lot of people believe that they have to be this picture perfect Christian. They have to have it all together to walk through the church doors, and that is far from the truth.
Yes.
Like, I look at the church as like a hospital for people. You know, you go there to be healed. You go there to be restored. You go there to get healthy again. You don't have to come there perfect and all put together. And I'm glad that you were able to walk through those doors, because I know sometimes that it's so hard because you feel ashamed.
Yes.
You feel guilty. You feel unworthy. And those are lies.
Yes, they are.
How did you overcome those lies?
By getting down on my knees and asking God to bring the Spirit in me alive.
Yeah.
And He has, and it has made the difference in the world.
It has completely changed you. It is so beautiful to see that you can go from a broken home into an orphanage, then through years and years of addictions, and be right here on the set of Shasta's journey to live another day and to share that those trials and tribulations, they didn't hold you back. They actually pushed you forward.
Yes.
And they shaped and molded you into the person that you are today. And if you're watching, I want you to know that no matter what circumstance, no matter what trial you are going through or addiction that you are dealing with, that does not define you. God defines you. And if you need any prayer, Ruth and I would love to pray for you. We would love to put you in touch with people who can get you help. And I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. I know that it's very vulnerable sharing life experiences that you've been through, and I know that it will teach, heal, or inspire somebody. Go to shastasjourney.com to learn more and to be a guest on the show or to get prayer requests. God bless.